Let me tell you something right now. Every single person in this room has encountered a narcissist at some point in life. Maybe you've worked with one. Maybe you've lived under the same roof with one. Or maybe you've sat across from one at the dinner table. And let me tell you, these folks are not just difficult. They're draining. They suck the air right out of the room because they believe everything should revolve around them. You can feel it in the conversation. You can see it in their eyes, and you can sense it in their posture. It's that unshakable arrogance, that relentless self-absorption, that unwavering conviction that the world owes them something simply because they exist. You see, narcissists operate on one principle. Me. They might cloak it in sweet words or a charming smile, but when you peel back the layers, it's all about them. And that's where we come in tonight, because we need to talk about the power that's bigger than all of us. The power of God and the way He sets things straight in the lives of narcissists every single time. You might be feeling a tinge of anger, remembering someone who dismissed your feelings as if they were a speck of dust. You might be thinking of the stress, the mental strain, the emotional toll it took on you trying to reason with a person who never really listens. And maybe you came here searching for answers, for some direction, for some assurance that people like, that won't always get away with it. Perhaps you've asked yourself, where is justice in all this? Doesn't God see what's happening? I want you to know that God never ignores injustice, and He certainly never lets the spirit of narcissism thrive unchecked. There's always a reckoning, always a season of revelation, always that moment when the truth comes to the surface. But we have to recognize the signs, stay vigilant, and be willing to confront the reality of what narcissism does not just to the narcissist, but to everyone in their orbit. Tonight, I want to speak straight to your heart. I want you to feel the fire, feel the hope, and feel that unbreakable sense of possibility that God offers us when we stand firm in the face of toxic behaviors. Narcissists are real, and they walk around in our daily lives. But they don't walk unobserved by the one who sees it all. It's easy to feel defeated when you're under their thumb. It's easy to think nobody cares, that nobody is going to hold them accountable. But trust me, God always cares. And in ways that might surprise you. He's always doing things behind the scenes to bring narcissists to a place of correction or revelation. It might not look the way we expect. It might not come when we snap our fingers, but it's coming. I stand before you today to remind you that no matter how discouraged you feel, no matter how powerless you believe yourself to be, God's perspective changes everything. We all have something valuable to offer, something that deserves respect, deserves acknowledgement, deserves the nurturing environment that helps us grow. Narcissists disrupt that environment by making it all about them. They kill collaboration, they stifle joy, they inject confusion and self-doubt. We end up questioning our worth. We end up playing small. We end up feeling stuck. That's not the life we're meant to live. We are meant to stand tall, to share our gifts, to be good stewards of the blessings we've been given. And when you're around a narcissist too long, It's like being stuck on a sinking ship with someone who won't even admit there's water seeping in. They'll blame you. They'll blame the weather. They'll blame the shipbuilders. Anyone but themselves. God knows this, and he intervenes in ways that shake the foundations of that narcissistic world. He brings truth to light. He softens or hardens hearts as needed. He humbles the proud by exposing their cracks. He rescues the innocent, often in ways that seem downright miraculous. And sometimes he removes the narcissist's power in a flash. We're here to talk about 5 things God always does to the narcissist. And I guarantee the moment we finish, you'll see that divine justice is never idle. You'll be reminded that there is a higher plan, a more profound purpose, and a watchful eye that will not let this arrogance continue unchallenged. If you've ever felt trapped in a web of manipulation, I'm telling you there is a way out. If you've ever felt like your voice was swallowed by someone else's ego, listen up. Your voice matters. If you've ever questioned whether God notices the heartbreak of dealing with these people, I'm here to say he sees it all. And he responds in ways that reveal not just their true nature, but ours as well. Because while they're busy clinging to control, God is busy teaching us resilience. So stay with me. Feel that courage in your chest. Let your spirit rise up with expectation, because what I'm about to share is a blueprint, a map, a guiding light on how God handles the narcissist. And once you see it, once you feel it, once you know it deep in your bones, no narcissist can ever hold you captive again. You can stand with unwavering confidence that the creator of the universe fights for truth, fights for humility, and fights for justice. This is your reminder that no one and nothing can outsmart the Almighty. First, God has a way of stripping the narcissist of their illusions. You ever watch someone who's so full of themselves they believe they're untouchable? They walk around puffed up, heads held high, acting like they're above consequence. It's like a tower built on shaky ground. They might have influence, money, connections. They might talk a big game and silence anyone who dares speak differently. Yet God sees straight through the facade. The higher they build that shaky tower, the further they have to fall when the truth comes knocking. Because truth always comes knocking. I remember a friend of mine who worked for a boss that was the epitome of narcissism. Day in and day out. My friend was told he was incompetent, worthless, or simply lucky to have a job. That boss would gloat about his own brilliance and belittle my friend's every effort. For a while, it seemed like this boss was invincible. Nobody questioned him. Nobody challenged him. He sat on that throne of arrogance for years. But one day, a financial miscalculation, one he had created, came to light. It toppled the entire empire he'd built. All that pride turned into panic. And in that moment, the illusions fell. This is what God does. He allows the narcissist to keep building until the time is right. And then the entire facade comes tumbling down in the blink of an eye. When that moment of collapse arrives, the narcissist is faced with a harsh reality check. Sometimes they accept it. Sometimes they fight it. Sometimes they pretend it's not even happening. But it happens nonetheless. What does that mean for you if you're caught in their snare? It means you have to be watchful. You have to keep your integrity intact, your faith strong, your spirit alert. You can't allow their illusions to become yours. Because if you start buying into their fantasies, if you allow yourself to be persuaded that they are above question, you risk missing the signs of their downfall. You might stay too long in a toxic environment, or you might start doubting your own common sense. God's solution isn't to strike them down while you're unprepared. He wants you awake for when that tower falls, so you can walk away free and unharmed. How do we see this happening around us? Look at the news. Look at stories of grand CEOs, grand politicians, even spiritual leaders who believed they were untouchable. Sooner or later, the same narrative emerges. The illusions crack, the lies unravel, and what was hidden in the dark explodes into the light. It's not a coincidence. It's a pattern. God has ordered this universe in such a way that truth inevitably surfaces. It might be delayed, but it's never denied. If you're living under a narcissist's influence, take heart in knowing this. You do not have to be the one to tear them down. You do not have to use your energy for revenge or sabotage. God's got a built-in system of accountability. He does this by ensuring that the narcissist's own arrogance becomes the seed of their downfall. Pride blinds them. It makes them careless. It drives them to corners they can't escape. Your role is to guard your mind and heart. Recognize the illusions for what they are. Refuse to play along. The moment you decide you won't be a puppet in their show, you begin to disconnect from the strings that hold you. And when the collapse comes, you're better positioned to see it for what it is. Divine reordering, not random chaos. The lesson here is, illusions can't stand forever. Pride comes before destruction. That's not just a quaint saying. It's a spiritual law as firm as gravity. And God always uses that law to break the narcissist's hold, revealing how fragile their power truly is. So if you're standing in the shadow of someone who thinks they own you, keep your eyes open and your faith strong, because that shadow is going to shrink faster than they ever imagined. Next, God ensures the narcissist's manipulations backfire. Narcissists thrive on manipulation. It's like a twisted game of chess to them. They push the right emotional buttons to get what they want. They isolate you from support. They gaslight you into second guessing yourself. They love bomb you when they need you on their side and discard you when you no longer serve their purpose. They want total control, and they'll do anything, lie, cheat, distort facts to maintain that dominance. Now, the scariest part is how good they are at making you feel like you're the problem. They have this uncanny ability to turn any situation around so they appear as the victim or the hero, never the villain. But here's the thing, God never allows manipulation to triumph indefinitely. The very tactics the narcissist uses to hold you captive will eventually implode on them. Think about a spider building an intricate web. The spider invests a lot of time and cunning in weaving those traps. From the outside, it looks ingenious, but all it takes is one shift, maybe a strong gust of wind or a sudden rainfall, and that web is torn apart. And guess who's most vulnerable when the web collapses? The spider. Because now it's exposed out in the open, without the hidden lines of silk to hide behind. That's how it works for narcissists. They get so lost in their own manipulative strategies that they fail to notice the web is unraveling. I recall hearing about a charismatic leader who manipulated everyone around him to maintain a saintly image while secretly exploiting his followers for personal gain. The people who tried to speak up were dismissed, mocked, or shamed into silence. It went on for years. To an outsider, he seemed unstoppable. But behind the scenes, small cracks were forming. A paper trail of financial inconsistencies, emails that contradicted his claims, private conversations where he slipped up. Suddenly, it all came crashing down. The supporters turned against him when the truth was laid bare. The same technique he used to keep everyone in line. The emotional appeals, the guilt trips, the grandiose promises became evidence of his manipulative nature. That's God in action, allowing the truth to slip through the cracks until the facade could no longer hold. For those living under such manipulation, the biggest risk is losing sight of your own reality. You start to doubt what you see with your own eyes and feel in your own heart. You might even blame yourself for things that aren't your fault. Narcissists sow confusion like a gardener scattering seeds, hoping it'll bloom into your total compliance. But it's crucial to remember that confusion is not from God. Truth brings clarity, even if it's painful. Lies bring chaos, even if they come wrapped in sweet words. God's way of countering manipulation is by offering moments of undeniable clarity. Maybe you come across an irrefutable piece of evidence. Maybe you hear the right words at the right time. Maybe you witness a slip up that contradicts everything the narcissist has been telling you. These aren't coincidences. They are divine interventions signaling you to trust your gut. So how do you break free? You stop engaging in the manipulative game. You draw boundaries. You keep records if you have to. You pray for discernment. And then you watch how God turns the narcissist's own strategies against them. The more they try to tighten their grip, the more they slip, the more they spin lies, the more tangled they get in their own web. And finally, the people who once believed their every word wake up to the truth and see the manipulator for who they really are. It might be a slow process, but it's as certain as daylight following dawn. The lesson here is that manipulation can never outlast divine truth. God will flip the script. He'll unravel the illusions. He'll rescue you from that web the narcissist crafted so carefully. And when the narcissist tries to blame you, tries to guilt you, tries to spin the story one last time, God will reveal just enough to set you free. Because He is a God of liberty, not bondage. And He won't allow the manipulator to claim victory over your soul. Third, God exposes the narcissist's lack of empathy by allowing relationships to collapse. Narcissists thrive on relationships that serve them, not on genuine two-way connections. They view people as stepping stones, trophies, or resources. Empathy, compassion. Those words barely register. They might fake it when it benefits them, but true empathy is foreign to them. So what does God do? He orchestrates scenarios that reveal just how shallow these relationships really are. He allows the narcissist circle to fracture piece by piece until it's clear that it was never built on love or mutual respect, only on self-serving agendas. Imagine a narcissist who's surrounded by friends only because he's wealthy or well connected. He lavishes gifts, attention, and praise. But the moment those friends need a genuine show of empathy, he vanishes. Or maybe he demands loyalty but offers nothing in return but condescension. Eventually, even the most star-struck followers get tired. They see the pattern whenever someone needs real emotional support. The narcissist is too busy, too indifferent, or too superior to bother. Over time, these half-hearted friendships erode. The illusions that kept them afloat dissolve. And the narcissist finds himself alone, which is often the one scenario he can't handle because he thrives on external validation. Have you noticed how narcissists often try to isolate their closest targets? They don't want you to have a support system because that might give you the clarity and courage to see who they really are. Yet even that isolation strategy eventually backfires. God sends people into your life, sometimes strangers, sometimes old friends you haven't seen in years, who offer a lifeline of genuine concern. They say something so real, so heartfelt, that it jolts you awake. You realize you're worthy of true empathy, not the counterfeit version. That's God at work, reminding you of your intrinsic value, reminding you that not all human connections are one-sided. Now, what's the fallout? The narcissist loses the control he had over your emotional life. You stop relying on them for affirmation, and you start seeking healthier connections. This can feel terrifying at first because narcissists are experts at making you think you need them. But as your eyes open, you see that their brand of support was never authentic. It was transactional. It was manipulative. And when you finally step away, you might feel a rush of guilt or fear, like you're betraying them. Let me tell you something. Choosing your mental and emotional health is never a betrayal of anyone, but the lies that kept you in chains. God uses broken relationships to teach the narcissist a powerful lesson. You can't fake empathy forever. Sooner or later, people see the lack of genuine care. They see how the narcissist's promises fall flat. They notice how the narcissist's support is only available when there's something to gain. And so, one by one, they walk away. The narcissist may rant, rave, or resort to new manipulations to fill that void, but it won't change the underlying truth. Real relationships demand real love, and real love requires empathy. You might be asking, but doesn't that leave the narcissist lonely and resentful? Often, yes. But here's the critical point. God isn't punishing them arbitrarily. He's giving them a chance to realize their ways. He's offering them an opportunity to develop empathy, to see the damage they've caused, to understand that love can't be bought or coerced. If they learn that lesson, restoration can happen. If they don't, they continue on the path of isolation, always searching for new people to exploit. For you, this is an invitation to surround yourself with genuine connections and to trust that you deserve better than the shallow love a narcissist provides. It's a clarion call to invest in relationships built on mutual respect, shared values, and honest communication, so you'll never be starved for empathy again. Fourth, God humbles the narcissist by showing them their limitations. Narcissists have this grandiose sense of self, like they're unstoppable, like they know everything, like they can do no wrong. They walk into a room and they expect everyone to bow to their brilliance. When someone else succeeds, the narcissist either discredits it or tries to take credit for it. They see themselves as the sun around which all planets revolve. But God, in His infinite wisdom, orchestrates moments that force the narcissist to confront just how limited they really are. For instance, a narcissist might talk endlessly about their superior intellect. Then, out of nowhere, they face a problem they cannot solve. Maybe it's a business deal that unravels because of their oversight. Maybe it's a health crisis that money or wit can't fix. Maybe it's an emotional breakdown they can't reason away. Suddenly, they're face to face with a reality that doesn't bend to their will, and that's jarring. It's in these moments that God whispers, "You are not the master of the universe. You are part of my creation, and you have limits like everyone else." This humbling can be incredibly painful for the narcissist, especially if they've spent years, maybe decades, cultivating an image of invincibility. Think of a high-flying executive who denies stress, denies burnout, denies human vulnerability, until one day she collapses, physically and emotionally, because no one can run on arrogance forever, or consider the know-it-all family member who ridicules anyone who disagrees with him, until he's confronted by a personal crisis, a tragedy in the family, a loss of a job that shows him knowledge alone doesn't solve every problem. The narcissist is forced to see that sometimes you need humility, sometimes you need help, sometimes you need grace. But there's a silver lining here, that humbling can lead to transformation if the narcissist is willing to heed the lesson. God breaks us down sometimes not to destroy us, but to rebuild us on a stronger foundation. For the narcissist, that foundation would be the recognition of humanity, the acceptance of needing others, and the acknowledgement of a higher power. If they resist that lesson, they plunge deeper into denial, often repeating the same mistakes with higher stakes each time. But if they open their heart, even just a crack, God's light can filter in and ignite change for you. Observing this humbling can be both liberating and complex. On one hand, you finally see that the narcissist is not the all-powerful figure you once believed. On the other, you might feel torn between compassion and resentment, especially if they come to you for support after years of belittling you. But remember, humility is the first step toward genuine transformation. If you choose to offer forgiveness, do it wisely with boundaries in place. Don't let them drag you into a cycle of manipulation again. Trust that God is guiding the process, revealing the narcissist's limitations, so everyone involved can grow. At the end of the day, the lesson is that no one is beyond the reach of God's humbling hand. We're all just vessels here. And the minute we think we're above that, the minute we believe we stand alone on a pedestal, reality comes knocking. Narcissists get that knock louder and clearer than most because they tempt fate by denying their own humanity. God steps in and says, "You want to believe you're above everyone? Let's see what happens when I remove the crutch you've been leaning on. Let's see how strong you really are." And in that moment, the narcissist realizes, or should realize, that we all bleed the same, we all hurt the same, and we all need grace. Finally, God uses the narcissist journey to teach everyone else resilience, discernment, and faith. We often think the story is just about the narcissist getting their due. But God's plans are bigger than retribution. He cares about your growth, my growth, everyone's growth. Sometimes He allows us to cross paths with a narcissist to sharpen our spiritual senses. We learn how to spot red flags. We learn the power of saying no. We discover that real love, real friendship, real leadership isn't domineering. It's humble, kind, and patient. And without the painful experience of dealing with a narcissist, many of us wouldn't learn these lessons nearly as deeply. Look at your own life. How many times have you said, "I'll never let that happen to me again," after enduring a narcissist's toxic behavior? Maybe you vowed to speak up sooner next time, or to trust your intuition, or to reach out for help instead of suffering silently. These are valuable lessons that shape who you become. I remember a woman who escaped a long-term relationship with a narcissist. The emotional toll was staggering. She lost her sense of self, her confidence, her direction. But once she broke free, she dedicated herself to helping others recognize the signs of emotional abuse. She became a mentor, a guide, a beacon of hope. That's the power of resilience. That's God taking a horrible situation and flipping it for good. On a collective level, communities learn too. Churches, companies, families, they all learn to foster environments that discourage narcissistic tendencies. They create accountability structures. They promote transparency. They encourage empathy as a core value. This communal shift might not happen overnight, but every time a narcissist is exposed, it triggers a wave of introspection and reform. People ask, how did we miss this? How can we protect ourselves going forward? That's how societal change begins. Don't misunderstand me. God doesn't need narcissists to accomplish His work. But He can and does use every situation to bring about growth. If you've suffered under a narcissist, your suffering isn't meaningless. If you've watched a narcissist wreak havoc in your workplace, your frustration isn't wasted. If you've prayed for deliverance and wondered why it took so long, understand that in the waiting, something was being forged within you. A kind of spiritual steel that doesn't bend easily, that doesn't crack under pressure, and that recognizes truth even when it's buried under layers of deception. And in the end, we see that while narcissists can cause real harm, they are not omnipotent. They don't have the final say. God does. And He's in the business of turning curses into blessings, weaknesses into strengths, and pain into purpose. Maybe you wish you never encountered that narcissist in your life. Trust me, I get it. But look at who you've become in the aftermath. Look at the empathy you've developed, the boundaries you've established, the wisdom you've gained. That's divine alchemy right there. Turning your scars into a testament of victory, turning your tears into a wellspring of compassion for others, turning your confusion into laser-focused discernment. And now we stand at the culmination of these truths, these 5 consistent, unyielding ways that God deals with the narcissist. The illusions are stripped away. The manipulations backfire. The lack of empathy leads to broken relationships. The arrogant are humbled by their limitations. And through it all, God teaches every witness every person in the vicinity. How to stand stronger and live freer. If you ever doubted whether God sees your struggle with a narcissist, trust me, He does. And He acts in these specific, powerful ways to restore balance where chaos once reigned. Let's gather these insights and hold them up to the light. It's time to integrate them into our minds and hearts so we don't leave here unchanged. Remember how illusions crumble. Pride is a house of cards, and God will tip it over in His perfect timing. You don't have to do it yourself. You don't have to dirty your hands in vengeance. You simply stand firm, keep your integrity, and let God handle the unveiling of truth. Stay alert. When you see cracks forming in the narcissist story, keep faith that it's the start of liberation. Recall that manipulation is a scheme doomed to fail. You don't have to debate every lie. You just need to stay rooted in what's real. Keep your soul anchored in truth. God lets their manipulative web collapse under its own weight. While they try to rewrite the narrative, God will highlight the facts. Focus on becoming a better version of yourself instead of constantly defending yourself. One day, you'll look back and see how every snare they set turned into a pit that they themselves fell into. Remember how God reveals a narcissist's shallow relationships by allowing them to crumble. If you're in a place where your own relationships feel shaky because of a narcissist, remember that sometimes destruction is necessary for reconstruction. Let the false bonds break. Let the illusions fade. Real friendships, real family ties, real connections will survive. The narcissist might end up isolated, but that's their wake-up call for you. It's a second chance at authentic love and connection. Don't forget the moment God humbles them. It may come through failure, heartbreak, or losing something they prize. Narcissists try to outrun their human limitations, but God will always find a way to remind them that they're just as vulnerable as the rest of us. Take no joy in their suffering, but find hope in the reality that God's correction is an act of mercy. If they learn, they can change. If they refuse, their pride hardens. Either way, you're free from the myth of their invincibility. And finally, hold on to the understanding that your experience with a narcissist wasn't wasted. God used it to cultivate resilience, deeper faith, and sharper discernment in you. That's how He brings beauty from ashes, by using even the darkest chapters of our lives as canvases for His grace. But we can't stop at mere understanding. I'm challenging you to take action. Let this awareness inspire real change in how you conduct your life, how you choose your relationships, how you handle conflict, and how you communicate your boundaries. I want you to walk out of here more confident, more assured that no matter what toxic personalities cross your path, you have the tools and the divine backing to stand your ground. If you're still in a toxic situation, consider what boundaries you can set right now. Think about who you can reach out to for support. Pray for clarity, for strength, for a breakthrough. And if you're already out, share your story. Be the guiding light to someone still lost in that fog. Use what you've learned to help someone else find their way. Let's talk about hope. Hope isn't a flimsy wish. Hope is a strong cord that ties your future to God's promises. And God promises to stand with the oppressed, to tear down illusions, to elevate truth, and to redeem our suffering. You are not alone. You never have been. Even if you felt abandoned, remember that God was always working. Sometimes He works in quiet ways, sometimes in loud ways, but He never leaves injustice unaddressed. If a narcissist has robbed you of your voice, your peace, or your dreams, it's time to reclaim them. You do this not by dwelling in anger or plotting revenge, but by focusing on your growth, your calling, and your connection to God. It's a brave new day, folks. A day when you realize that just because someone calls themselves the center of the universe doesn't make it so. A day when you see that humility and empathy are the real superpowers and arrogance is just a ticking time bomb. A day when you recognize that your scars can become someone else's signposts, directing them away from danger. So I urge you to step forward in that courage to take the lessons you've learned and transform them into action. If you've been silent, speak up. If you've been complicit in fueling a narcissist ego out of fear or habit, stop. If you've let your dreams die because someone convinced you you're not worthy, reclaim those dreams. Pray if you've never prayed before, or pray like you've never prayed before, for wisdom, for protection, for a heart that won't turn bitter. And if you see someone else trapped, don't just stand by. Reach out, offer an ear, offer a kind word. Often, that's all it takes to change a life. When you find yourself questioning if God is really present in a world filled with arrogance and self-absorption, remember these 5 truths. Remind yourself that illusions eventually fall. Manipulative schemes eventually implode. Shallow relationships dissolve. Prideful people face their limitations. And in the process, those who watch and endure develop a resilience that can't be bought. That is your anchor, your proof that God is not neutral or silent. He's actively engaged in turning the tide against narcissism, even when it seems like they're winning. In closing, I want to leave you with this: be someone who stands for truth, compassion, and authenticity. The narcissist's world is built on lies, callousness, and self-promotion. Your world can be built on the exact opposite. And no matter how loud the narcissist's voice gets, remember that truth whispers louder in the quiet of your heart than any shout of arrogance. Let God's voice be that quiet whisper guiding you to love better, to stand stronger, and to see farther than your current pain. Today, you walk away equipped. You walk away with a clear understanding that God is never fooled, never intimidated, and never defeated by narcissism. He allows the proud to climb high enough that their fall will teach them, and everyone watching, a lesson about genuine strength. He orchestrates revelations that expose manipulation. He breaks superficial connections to make room for authentic fellowship. He humbles the mighty to remind them of their frailty. And in the process, he molds you into a more discerning, more compassionate, and more courageous person. So go out and live like you know these truths. Live free from the chains of intimidation. Live bold enough to call out toxic behavior. Live wise enough to see manipulation from a mile away. Live compassionate enough to help others who are ensnared. And above all, live with the conviction that God Himself stands with you in the battle against narcissism, shining a light that no darkness can extinguish. Yes, the narcissist can be relentless, but God's justice is unstoppable. Yes, the narcissist can cause deep wounds, but God's healing runs deeper. Yes, the narcissist might fool many, but God is never fooled. And that's why you can leave here with your head held high, your spirit unburdened, and your resolve unshakable. Because no matter what form narcissism takes, no matter how intimidating it seems, there is a power greater than all of us, orchestrating outcomes that uphold truth and bring lasting freedom. So step out in faith. Carry these revelations close to your heart. Let them be your armor, your compass, your source of renewed energy. And the next time you face a narcissist, look them in the eye with quiet confidence, knowing that God's hand is in motion, working for your good and for the good of all who stand for what's right. This is your moment. This is your testimony. And this is the victory that no narcissist can ever take from you.